A paradox, a seemingly absurd or contradictory statement or proposition which, when investigated, may prove to be well found or true. There are popular paradoxes like the grandfather's paradox, where you go back in time, kill your grandfather before your father was born, so you will not be born. So there is no one going back and killing your grandfather again. And the Schrodinger's cat, where your cat is dead and alive inside a box at the same time. Fancy people call it superposition. But if you really think about it, Genshin law is a contradiction in itself. At least that's how I see things. When you try to connect one dot to the other, something else says otherwise. There is no definite answer to anything, but at the same time, there is. Time allows multiple possibilities, but we can only see one of them at a time, just like how Doctor Strange showed us in Infinity War.
How many did you see?
14,605,000.
How many did we win?
One.
We can only come to see one possible outcome of countless outcomes created by the simplest answer of yes or no given by, let's say, an Archon. And one such possibility that tickled my brain some time ago was the inevitable death of the already dead original Dendro Archon. Hi, I'm Mekamir, and this is a piece of my madness. By the way, don't expect this to be your run-of-the-mill theory that uses factually proven information. I am not into that stuff. I like more uncharted and dangerous territory with a lot more gambling and logic involved, with a sprinkle of philosophy to spice things up. Yes, you heard it correct. I am a gambling addict, but not the kind you think. I gamble with information. Simplified and normally said means I like making absurd theories. Before we get into the good parts, let's backtrack a bit and find some context to this madness, or it will just feel like gibberish to you. It began on a fairly average day. I was watching a stream, and the streamer for some reason started watching other people's theories on Reddit, where he came across this theory from another theorist about Kusanali, or the current god of Sumeru, being not the real Dendro Archon, and someone else is the real Dendro Archon. Baizhu, to be exact. Streamer probably liked the idea, but didn't like some details, so he made his own theory on Baizhu being the real Dendro Archon, with some honkai references half the people didn't understand thrown at the end. And this intrigued me in a different way. I found a part 2, or maybe a hole in this theory, or maybe a paradox. Jokes aside, I really don't care who or what becomes the Dendro Archon when Sumeru comes up. All I care about is this one little possibility that if this theory about Dendro Archon being Baizhu is true, then him dying. Then again, I guess I do have to care cause Sumeru is kinda based on a book written where I live. Anyway, this is how the theory goes, for those who are not up to date. After the Cataclysm, the Dendro Archon was said to have died, but surprise, surprise, he's not, kinda. He actually died, but somehow managed to use the Gnosis as a second lifeline and sustain his life barely. Currently, Baizhu is the only Dendro character we have met in-game, and is the reason to believe Dendro visions are a real thing and not a conspiracy theory made by Hoyoverse to keep players hyped up. Oh yeah, now that's a thing too, huh? Hoyoverse, fueling the already obnoxious bunch who shipped Genshin and Honkai like a bunch of Fujoshi. I don't know, I recently started despising people connecting Honkai and Genshin for every little thing. Be a little original, damn it! Now for an ad break from me. Please be kind enough to hit that subscribe button for a healthy relationship with your YouTuber. Unwillingness to do so will cause a Garayaka to appear under your bed tonight and hit you instant. Thank you, me. Back to the video. You know the slime theory by now, right? All the slimes resemble the original Archon of that specific element. These annoying little shitters hide underground and attack their prey, if you can call them hunters, that is. Then the other annoying shitters, the whopper flowers, have the same mechanic. Hide underground and attack their prey. See the similarity? the slime counterpart of the Dendro Archon's mechanic was mimicked by the Whopper flowers, making the current Archon of Sumeru, Kusanali, the mimic of the real Dendro Archon. Oh, and does anyone correctly know if slimes existed before Whopper flowers, or there is no such thing and we just assume Whopper flowers were the ones who copied Dendro slimes? I know they like mimicking stuff, but who knows? And the Dendro slime hiding symbolized how Baizhu is now hiding from the world. Maybe. But that really doesn't make much sense to me. You'll understand when the crazy part begins. The Archon's characteristic at the beginning was what got imprinted into the slimes. And I guess they just don't suddenly change their whole stick when the Archon also changes. So, was the original Dendro Archon covered from the beginning? Because that's actually the main characteristic of the Dendro slimes, increasing their numbers by planting themselves, hiding underground and attacking when you are not looking. In conclusion, original Dendro Archon won the Archon War by hiding until everyone was dead and killing the last guy standing by slowly growing their following and backstabbing. This is reality of war. Dendro Archon is a god of wisdom, not justice nor war, who fights nobly. Accept reality. If you can't, here, touch some grass from the forest at the back of my house. That aside, there is this whole thing about a snake falling in love with a human that I really don't give a damn about right now. Then to keep his cover, Kusanali took the bullet and became the acting Dendro Archon. Now that we are up to speed, let me show you another perspective. Embrace yourselves because this is the point of no return. We start from Mondstadt. At the end of our journey there, Barbados got his gnosis ripped off. Then in Liyue, as the final contract, Morax gave up on his gnosis to uphold his end of the contract. In Inazuma, Yai traded our life in exchange for the electron gnosis. You understand the pattern, right? Wherever we go, the gnosis gets snatched away from that Archon. More specifically, the Fatui takes the gnosis from that Archon. As I said before, the real Dendro Archon, or how it's said in the theory, Baizhu's life is reliant on the power of the Dendro Gnosis. After his supposed death in the Cataclysm 500 years ago, his body is in the verge of death and is held up by the Gnosis. Now, after the chasm probably, we will be visiting Sumeru, and through the Archon quest, we most definitely will get introduced to the Dendro Archon. Along with us, the Fatui will also come chasing after the Gnosis. This pattern forces the real Dendro Archon and the Dendro Gnosis to reveal itself one way or the other. This forces the Fatui Harbinger assigned to retrieve the Dendro Gnosis to yoink the Gnosis from the Archon who is on life support using the Gnosis. Did I mention that Baizhu is living in Liyue researching adaptai arts and Chi-Chi to find a way to reach immortality? Maybe not. Now you see, right? If this theory is correct, he is destined to die unless he finds a way to reach immortality and cure his illness. The story about the immortal white snake has this part where the husband of the immortal snake dies from the shock after finding she is a giant snake. And to revive him, she steals a medicine from a monk's garden. Even according to that story, Baizhu is already in that dead state and searching for a cure or resurrection in terms of the folktale. For the story to progress, we have to move to Sumeru, which in turn triggers the plot and forces the Dendro Gnosis to make an appearance. That causes the Harbinger plot to trigger, causing the thing that holds Baizhu's life together to leave his side. For him to live, the story should stop and causes stasis or eternity. But the story moves either way, making the Dendro Archon's paradox. But my theory doesn't stop just there. This whole theory is wrapped around the idea of Baizhu being the Dendro Archon. But what if I say he's not? Instead, someone close to him is the real Dendro Archon. Someone really close to him. Like on his neck close. Yes, I meant Genshin. The Archon is supposed to resemble the slime of that element. A god in hiding. Someone that everyone fails to notice but at the same time wants to get noticed. Just like Dendro slimes, who are always hiding, but triggers you with the battle music out of nowhere. The story of the immortal white snake is focused on the immortal white snake by Shu Shen and not her husband, Shu Xian. She is the one wanting her immortality back. In the folktale, a not-so-virtuous monk lured Shu Xian to his temple and locked him for a month while Baizhu Xian was pregnant. Concerned, Baizhu Xian went to save Shu Xian, but the monk used her pregnancy as an exploit and made flames to weaken her even more. As retaliation, she summoned waves to put out the flames and shrimp soldiers to fight alongside her. Yes, you didn't hear it wrong. Shrimp soldiers. Though she managed to fend off the monk, she had unintentionally killed innocent people with her waves. This made the gods retract her blessing as the immortal magical snake. The rest of the story is not that important. I'll leave a link to a video that explains the story much better. In this story, the white snake lady lost her immortality. Although Genshin doesn't portray a one-to-one mythology like people think it does, there are few pieces of information that we can use as reference points. Baizhu's name is close to the name of the white snake, Baizhu Zhan, but Baizhu doesn't look like a white snake. For that matter, a movement. Think about it. Both Venti and Zhongli had different forms before they took on a humanoid shape to become the Archon. Don't ask about Raiden, don't know who she is. The white snake is the one with powers, the one with divine blessings and whatnot. So all this information started making different scenarios in my head to form a best case scenario. In the end, my brain gave me a conclusion of Genshin being the real Dendro Archon. But the madness doesn't stop just there. Obviously, there is no possible way they let us play as a snake, right? So that's where Baizhu comes into play. Baizhu and Genshin are one in the same. One cannot operate without the other. Genshin needs Baizhu as a transportation method, and Baizhu is said to have poor eyesight, making Genshin his eyesight. Speaking of eyes, have you noticed Baizhu has snake eyes and Genshin has normal round eyes? To say that Baizhu is animal vehicle and Genshin is the god? Maybe. In Indian mythology, which Sumeru is mostly based on, most gods and goddesses have an animal as their vehicle. It might throw you off if you think about this guy. He's called Shiva, one of the three big shots in Indian mythology. Hear me out. What if here the animal and the humanoid are interchanged? The animal god is riding the humanoid animal. It's a solid possibility. Now we have to think about what happened in Kandria. If what I say becomes correct, why is Baizhu the one sick? It might be simpler than what you think. Dendro Archon's characteristic is hiding, and Genshin is hiding behind Baizhu. Baizhu is the decoy of the real Dendro Archon that is hiding. In the Cataclysm, Baizhu might have taken a hit for Genshin as a decoy, putting him into this current state he is in now. Now, Genshin is constantly by Baizhu's side, continuously stopping Baizhu's body from eroding using the power of the Gnosis. Even in the folktale, in one of the pair's previous lives, Baizhu Zhan was saved by Shu Xian, making their connection date back to previous lives. To be the god of wisdom, you don't have to be strong. Just need the brains and let your partner be the bronze. So conclusion, when Dendro Archon becomes playable, that will be Baizhu with Genshin included, because they are inseparable and one cannot survive without the other. They will always be together. Even though I changed the core of the previous Dendro Archon theory, the Dendro Archon's paradox I constructed is still possible. The name has to be changed to Baizhu's paradox, and all will be fine, I guess. To continue the plot, Genshin will have to give up her Gnosis. This makes Baizhu's life support taken out and causes the erosion process that was put under stasis by the Gnosis to reactivate in his body. But I am sure they will do some voodoo magic and find a way to reach immortality and stay happily ever after. But I personally am waiting for the first Archon death in this game. That is where I put a full stop to my madness. Some leagues out there might have already disproven or proven this theory, but who knows? I am patient enough to wait until everything is officially out. If you are regular here, you might have figured out that I have changed my usual pattern a bit. That's because I am experimenting on a different idea for a different project I am thinking of. Anyway, I have returned from my exams and most probably will dedicate more to this channel. Expect more madness to spread even more now. If you are new to this channel, join the madness by hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to leave a like and leave your thoughts on the video down in the comments. By the way, this is just a theory in a random dude's head on the internet. As always, thanks for watching and until next time, let your imaginations run wild.